Hi guys, I'm Chris,
And Mike.
and welcome back to this week's No Limits, a Mitch Rapp podcast. What's new this week, Mike?
Hey, not much, but I got a request for you. Can we jump back a few weeks? I want to clarify the record on a few things about Skip McMahon.
Okay, what did we get wrong? What did we get wrong?
Is that going to be all right with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, well, the first thing that we missed, or I should say, I missed, is that anytime we do a character analysis,
Oh,
I like to share my thoughts on that character in the form of a limerick.
we forgot the limerick. I see.
Dude, I personally felt for Skip McMahon when I realized I didn't write him a limerick. I was like, dude, my homie, my bad. Like, you deserve that. So I put a little something extra special into this one. There once was a bro named Skip McMahon. Just the special agent you'd want in your clan. No detail escapes him, be it crime scene or break-in. A perfectly crafted thriller G-Man.
Boom, baby. That was a good one.
Dude, I had to do it. I had to pour one out for my homie Skip. Although, no, he's not dead. He's still around.
He's not dead, but, you know.
I did ask on Twitter, while we're on Skip, I asked on Twitter if people would want to see a Skip McMahon resurgence. Do they want him back? They want to see him in a future rap book. 13 votes, 100%. Heck yeah.
Nice. You're not getting his ban from the Twitter page, are you?
What?
Nothing. Never mind.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Another question about Skip. Something felt funny when we said he's in his early 60s. I went back. We might have underestimated.
Okay. I thought we did it based on how old he was when he graduated college and then how many years he'd been in service, right?
Right. And Act of Treason has a line where Rapp tells Agent Brooks, hey, you're going to meet up with a guy. He's in his late 50s. So Rapp estimates, in a quote, a direct quote from Mitch Rapp himself, in his late 50s. I don't know where I got it. I might have had one of the years wrong because I was working off a quote that said he had 26 years in the service, in the FBI, in the Bureau. I went back, though, and I found Executive Power said more than 30 years with the Bureau.
Oh.
And that was earlier than Act of Treason.
Exactly. Interesting.
And then Memorial Day said 35 years earlier he started with the Bureau. So
he's older, or Mitch?
No, he'd be older. I think we missed about 5 or 10 years. Because if Act of Treason was his late 50s, then you have all 8 years of the Alexander administration.
Oh, right.
He's late 60s now.
Yeah, no, exactly. He's almost 70.
So he's almost 70, right. I think we were off. I think we lowballed him last week or 2 weeks ago.
Well, he's trying to get Irene in the late 70s. That a boy, Skip.
Now, here's the other thing. I didn't realize Act of Treason gave direct ages for Irene and Mitch.
Okay, what are those?
Which, now that we have 8 years as the transition to the Cooks, knowing Alexander served 2 terms, and Act of Treason was the first year of Alexander, we know the exact age of Mitch.
What is that?
He was 39 in Act of Treason.
Oh, so he's 48.
He's younger than we thought. I think some of us thought maybe pushing 50, 48, yeah, right?
Well, because he always says, like, I thought he said, like, he was over 50, or maybe he says he's almost 50.
Right.
Scott's a couple years older than him, right? So
Scott's
I guess that makes sense. Older. And we know Scott is older than 50. So, well, what about Irene? How old is she?
And Irene, the book said, was 45 in Act of Treason. So she's 6 years older than Mitch.
So her and Scott are roughly the same age.
They're roughly the same age, and that puts Irene now, 8 years later, at 53.
Okay.
And Tommy was 10 at that time. So she had Tommy at 35, and Tommy would now be 18.
18. Yeah, Tommy's 18.
Am I right that Alexander is sworn in active treason?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, right. The kind of nebulous, how many years has it been? 8 years of the Alexander administration gives us an exact benchmark.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, dude. When I went back searching for some of this, I was like, they give us exact years? I wasn't sure if we ever got it exact.
How did we not pick up on that before?
Right. That's big for active treason.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. It is.
I'm almost questioning myself. I'm like, do my many hours just in the zone, spiraling out of control, looking for small details, am I just imagining things? Like, is this driving me crazy? I'm going to pull up active treason real quick. I want to check this. I'm going to search in the Kindle book 39, and I believe it's spelled out 30 dash or hyphen 9. I don't want to be misleading our audience. You know what I'm saying?
How old was Mitch in Transfer of Power?
So Hayes was before Alexander, so Transfer of Power must have been within 4 years prior, right?
So he was 35.
Because it does say Hayes was a one-term president. When he got ill, was it Parkinson's? He said, I'm not going to seek re-election. So we know he's a one-term president, and we know Hayes was the president in transfer, so yeah, he had to be 35 at the youngest, right? Which then gives us a hint how much time passes between Killshot and Transfer of Power.
Right. That's a decent amount of time. That's a lot of time. A lot of books that we could have.
Okay. Here's the quote. Right. Here's the quote from Active Treason. He'd seen the younger guys, though. He'd even helped train a few of them, and they had a lot to learn before they were anywhere near as good as he was. At 39, he was at his peak. His knees and back were not what they once were, but he still had no problem keeping up with the rookies, who in some cases were nearly half his age. The years of experience were what made the difference. Text evidence, man. Rapp is 39 at active treason.
There you go. You did it. You deduced it.
How do we miss that?
I don't know. It's like when you're reading it and just we weren't thinking about ages at that time.
Or maybe what it is if there was a book with Alexander as president, we didn't know. Was it his second year as president or his sixth? You know? So maybe we just didn't know exact. But now that he's served 8 years, we know exact where we're at right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, dude, that had nothing to do with your great topic you prepared for us today. So, Chris, what are we doing?
All right. So today, a little bit different of a pod, but I don't know. We were sort of coming up with ideas now that we finished all the books, and obviously we given you those character analysis on Skip. We did the latest one, and we have a couple of author series as well. But one of the things we wanted to talk about, which is kind of different, is first lines. So, today, what can really make a book amazing? That's like what I was thinking. You have the cover, but then also, as soon as you jump in the book, that first sentence, that first hook, some would argue maybe the first paragraph, first chapter, but I just wanted to, we didn't have time to read the whole first chapters of everything. I just wanted to go for short, concise, and discuss with you every book, whether it was the prologue or chapter 1, the first line. And I'll have to say, in doing this exercise, it was interesting to see because they're very different. They're very different. Yeah. And I can say that Kyle and Vince wrote first lines very differently. You can sort of
very differently.
You were given a lineup, you had to pick something out. You can definitely tell that some are different. Before we get into the actual lines, I do have a couple of quiz show questions here. Roll your quiz show music here, Mike.
Uh-oh. Watch out.
Well, you probably already know this, so you don't have to answer here. We can answer them afterwards, just because you've seen the lines. But, I guess you can answer this question. What makes a good first line?
Oh, so these are opinion questions.
We can let's get to that one in a second. Sorry, these are more like actual answers. Okay. How many lines include the word or the character Mitch Rapp in them?
That's a good one, because when you proposed doing first lines, I was curious if we'd pick the prologue or chapter 1. And you went with whatever the first written words are once the story starts, barring if there's a quote, obviously a dedication, or sometimes an author's note. So we push those out, right?
Mm-hmm.
The author's note, like transfer of power about changing the White House, those don't count. We pick up with the prologue or chapter 1 if it has a prologue or prelude. And the reason I ask that is I think a lot of the preludes or prologues don't have rap. And instead, the first line with Rapp or Kennedy is in chapter 1. So I feel pretty strongly that number is going to be a little lower than one might first think, that he's not too often in the first line. That's my prediction.
All right, well, I could just give you here. So it's a 4. You're right. It's low.
4, okay. Pretty low, yeah.
Pretty low. Okay, so sort of related to this, I guess you could say, other than Mitch Rapp, how many times is a character's name mentioned in the first line?
Ooh. Again, I'm going to qualify this that I think Kyle maybe would do this more, because I know sometimes we're dropped right in, like Enemy at the Gates, we're driving with David Chisholm. Or I feel like we're introduced. Sonia, Total Power, right? We're dropped in with Sonia, the Russian. So I don't know if Vince would do that a lot. I'm going to go half and half. I'm going to say you probably have a character or name roughly 8 or 9 books.
Yeah, so if you add in Mitch, you're correct, because it's also 4. So it's 8 books. We have
8 books, Mitch in 4, and other characters in 4.
Mitch in 4. You have Irene in 1, Mike Nash in 1, Sonia and Grisha.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I missed 5. Scott in 1. So 9 books total. So roughly half the books. Yeah.
Okay.
How many include the description of a location?
Okay, I think this is going to be a good number of them. A lot of books open with the setting, I feel. Term limits. I know you have the cabin where the blonde-haired assassin is. Transfer of power. I feel like I remember Kennedy getting out at the White House or somewhere downtown D.C. going to a meeting. Yeah, I think the White House. I think this comes up a lot. I'm going to say like probably 13 books.
Yeah, so you're close to it. It's like 15 or 16, but it depends on like what you define as a location. You know, is it just
right, or a setting
describing what someone is looking at per se, or or actually describing, like in transfer executive power, we get a description. I'm not going to read it yet, but we get a description of the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
And you're thrust right into where you're going to be. So. Yeah, just something to pick out. But yeah, you're right. Most of these have some sort of description, either a location, a place, a setting, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I think that like sort of reflects back to what my first question was, is like what makes a good first line? And most likely it's going to include either a character, a setting. Next question. How long is the shortest first line?
Okay, I saw, because you showed these to me, so I can't give that one away. And what if we wait on that one till we read them all, giving people a chance to guess? Because that's a tricky one. How many words in the shortest line? And you'll hear it soon from us. We're going to read them all out. That's a good question.
And then sort of the opposite of that is, what's the longest first line? So we can wait until we read all those.
I would have to know, like, what is that amount of words in an average sentence in the English language? I can't even ballpark it. Is it 10? Is it 15?
Yeah. At what point does a sentence become too long and you need to make it into 2 sentences,
Yeah. Average number of words in a sentence. Let's turn to the Google here.
I feel like whenever I was writing my papers, what did they say? If it goes longer than 3 lines, you have to cut it. Like a sentence shouldn't be longer than like 3 lines of a page. Oh,
trust me, my middle schoolers, they don't know about what it is and how to spot it, but they all about run-on sentences. Trust me, they know about run-on sentences. Dude, here's an article. The Acropolitan. I don't know what publication that is, but title is Sentence Length Has Declined 75% in the Past 500 Years in the English language.
That makes total sense. People are way concise and short now. Yeah.
Like Middle English would just go on with commas and whatever.
Doth protest thee. Whereas now
with a lot of extra U's. Just put random U's in there.
Now everyone just responds like, yeah.
Dude.
Lols.
Average words per sentence. And I don't know if I could trust the data on this, but how about we'll post the article maybe on in the show notes or our social media. 63 words in the average sentence in the early 1500s.
63 words? Oh my gosh.
63 words compared to, as of this chart only goes up to 1950. 1950, 14.4 words.
Oh, you were close.
Yeah. And this trend has been going down.
I feel like that's now at 10.
It's probably even lower, right? Holy cow, this is fascinating. Especially with something like a Google Books or like machine learning.
Oh yeah, you can check
analyses like this for linguists. Right, you can do so much more data analysis and crunching. Wow, okay, anyway.
All right, so I guess, you can answer this question now. What do you think makes a good first line?
I might have a better answer towards the end of the podcast after we chit-chat about this, but first reaction, just knowing my reading habits, I appreciate a good setting, or I appreciate something a bit philosophical, almost a brain teaser of sorts, something that just causes you to pause and rethink a preconceived notion that you've had. And when we get to Vince's work, I think there are two of these that
I think we're in agreement on this. Yeah.
Yeah, they're cut above. I think they just stand above. And that's because they're not descriptive, flowery languages of the gray mist setting on the dark sky with the clouds. But they tickle a part of your brain that clues you into, this story is going to have some substance to it. So I'm going to say it's got to have that edge. It's got to have that critical piece that challenges some preconceived notions and really makes you think this story is going to do something different. What do you say?
Yeah, I totally agree. If you, after the very first sentence, you actually pause and think, and it causes you to think about something, or like, wow, that sentence, like, what does that mean? Type thing. Obviously, like a pretty average standard sentence can be just, literally getting us going into the description. But I feel like what makes it a cut above is something, like you said, makes you pause, makes you think about what the person just said, and sort of you can kind of tell based on that very first sentence what the story is going to be. Like, that makes a great first line.
Right. Yeah, let's dig into them then. What do you say if we recount and recapture what all the first lines are? We'll go back and forth, do one and one.
Sounds good. You want to kick it off?
Sure. I like Term Limits. It's a great book, so allow me the honor.
There you go. I didn't want it.
You're so generous to pass that one to me. Term Limits. The old wood cabin sat alone, surrounded by trees and darkness.
There we go. We got our first description of a setting.
Now that one does both, though, because you want to know what's going on in this cabin.
No, you do. Yeah.
Like you're intrigued. Like, what funny business going down in this cabin? Yeah.
All right. So, American Assassin. Mitch Rapp stared at his reflection in the dusty, cracked mirror and questioned his sanity.
Check one for Mitch Rapp being included.
Yeah, and I feel like this one, this one hits even harder, like on a reread. Like on a reread, This one is like, oh shit, I remember what's going on.
Yup.
But on first time reading, you're like, okay, who's this guy Mitch Rapp? Especially if you start with this book, you're like,
right.
All right, yeah. Now, and I feel like it also hits harder if you've read it in publication order. You have three different like this first line can hit differently in three different, if depending on how you've read these series and if you're rereading it.
So true. So true. It's pretty interesting if you're a new reader, and I would say most, have started with American Assassin.
Yeah.
The first word is Mitch. Like,
yeah.
Wow. Okay, interesting. I really wonder what that would... I'm trying to think of another series where that series is so defined by the character. Does that character literally stand out from the first sentence ever written about them? I don't know.
Well, we'd have to go look at other, we could just go to the Brad Thor series and see what the first sentence of Lions Lucerne is. Look at
about
the
Scott.
Gray Man and see if it's about Scott or if it's like just jumping into, because I feel like you can go either way. You can, like you said, go into a prologue where you're probably not going to meet. I feel like
the main character.
I wanted to do this. I ran out of time. I wanted to look at the prologues and see if Mitch or a main character is in the prologue. I feel like they're not for some reason. And then I feel like chapter ones are always Mitch or Irene.
Right. But some of these lines are from the preludes, right? If it comes first.
If it has one. Not all books have one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure though where they do have the prelude or prologue, Mitch or Irene definitely comes up in chapter 1 right away.
Yeah, right away. Yeah.
Usually, yeah. Okay, kill shot. The man flew through the air, propelled by one of the other recruits. We haven't talked action. What do you think about a cold open right into the action?
Yeah, no, that's definitely a style. It's not really something that you're going to see in the rest of these. That's one of the only ones that really thrusts us into the action. I guess no, maybe we'll get to one in a couple seconds, but yeah, no, that's definitely another key thing you could do is just boom, cold open. We're going right. This is what the story's going to be. What are these recruits doing? Where are they flying from?
Interesting you put a recruit in also, because that book is very heavy on Victor.
Yeah.
So you're hinting at that right off the bat.
All right, transfer of power. A fine mist fell from the darkening spring sky as a black limousine turned off East Street.
Setting.
Yeah. It's like what we're obviously in DC. What's going on? Yeah, it's gripping, standard.
And that's Kennedy. I remembered for some reason, even before having read this, it opens with Kennedy walking to the White House. I don't know if it was because it was the first word ever in a Mitch Rapp novel. I remember that fine mist. Like I can almost sense what the day was like that open transfer of power.
Right, exactly.
So that's a powerful line if it stuck with me that much.
And also I feel like with some of these descriptions for like settings, you could see it helps you visualize like how like a movie would start out or how like a TV show, or if you wanted to visualize it either in a video medium. Yeah.
I like this next one. I said there are two I think are a cut above. You might see why this one is very different than the first, 4 we just read. The third option. There exists in America a silent and invisible order made up of former soldiers, intelligence officers, and diplomats.
I mean,
dude, that's pretty cool.
I don't want to spoil like the end of the pod where we're going to give our top 5, but I mean, come on. Like that makes you, I don't know, when you read that, you're just like, okay, all right, there's a secret order made of these people. Let's go. Like,
let's do it. Yeah.
We're gonna talk about them, and then immediately after that, it goes into what the third option is. Like,
right.
No other book do we get a discussion of the title, like right away.
Right.
Everything else is like the title is mentioned, or like in Memorial Day, where it's like that is the culmination. Like it happens on Memorial Day, whatever. But yeah, that's really the only book that we get. The book title is discussed then in the book.
That soon. It's usually just dropped as a line somewhere.
Yeah, it's
This
like
one's direct.
I give him the consent to kill. Like you have the consent to kill. Like
Right.
at the end of one of the chapter 10 or whatever.
Exactly. Is this line, the third option one about the silent and invisible order, is that from that little note in the beginning where Vince is saying what the third option is, how it's not your traditional carrot or the stick? It's the espionage piece of business?
That is, at least in my Kindle version, that was the prologue. In the prologue.
That was the prologue, exactly.
Yeah.
I remember loving that little chunk of text before the story really gets into the narrative piece.
All right, so this one hits a little hard. So, separation of power. Dr. Irene Kennedy stood over a fresh mound of dirt and wept.
Oh. Dude, you're opening wounds, man. You're reopening wounds that have been closed for a while.
Just thinking about this and thinking about what it means, and then the fact that Thomas Stansfield dies off book.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is a brutal way to open up the story. I don't know. It's powerful though. Just like wow.
Especially the last two books, seeing how important he was.
Yeah, exactly.
And what he meant to Kennedy and her development. Remember that scene where Mitch, he's lying in a bed in his house. Irene and Scott Coleman are there.
Right.
And Mitch sneaks up on them. Mitch has the gun. And that conversation is so deep about how Stansfield...
It's in the third option.
And then, so he's this titan, but you see him dying, and then it's done. It happened before we even knew it. Oh, man. Yeah, that one. Also, there are a few times where the opening scene has nothing to do with the rest of the book.
Yeah,
it really was
just
just
one of them. Yeah.
Setting the stage right. Not for the plot, but just to wrap something up.
For the series, yeah.
Right. Like, let's say Separation of Power you read in a vacuum. So much happens in that book. From Stansfield passing, which has nothing to do with the narrative, that could confuse a new reader. Or Mitch being doxxed and his identity being out there. If you're not invested in him as a character or the rest of the series, I don't know if you catch how big of moments those are to lose Stansfield and to have Mitch's identity outed. Like, that might be the worst book to read on its own as a standalone.
Yeah. No, now that we're thinking about it, for sure. Yeah, I never thought about that, but yeah, I agree with you.
Although it does have that cool scene where he impersonates Saddam Hussein's son and goes into the nuclear bunker.
Well, I forgot that's in Separation of Power. All these things blend together now, man. I know every storyline, but I can't remember like which book it's from.
Right? Exactly. All right, executive power. The sleek gray craft sliced through the warm water and humid night air of the Philippine Sea at 25 knots, its twin engines rumbling towards its destination with a guttural moan. That's going to be the longest, right?
Yeah, that's the longest.
Yeah, all right, it has to be, yeah.
Got a comma in there, too.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did you count this? 1, 2,
no,
3,
I didn't.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. 31 words. That is roughly, let me tell you, the average number of words in a sentence back in the year 1700.
There you go. Yeah, it's typical, setting us up, description, where we're going to be for the first half of this book. It's kind of cool. It's kind of similar to that, gray mist and misty sky and a black limousine, but here we're a sleek gray craft on the water, as well as like the kill shot putting us into the action. This is also sort of a cold open because we get that whole beach scene, right?
Does that open on the boat, slicing through the water, does that recall any memories for you of Transfer of Power? When Mitch is dropped into Iran and he takes the boat in and swims to the beach? I just feel like
Yeah, no, it's very similar.
It's recalling Mitch's first scene in Bandar Abbas.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, man. And walk in with the limp. And I love that book so much.
Yes, exactly. Slicing the guard's throat. Dude, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, Memorial Day. Mitch Rapp Wait, I just did the last one.
Just go ahead. Go for it.
No, dude, because Memorial Day might be my favorite and Consent to Kill might be your favorite.
There we go. There we go.
I say might because as we've done these discussions, Memorial Day seems more and more like a one-off book. It didn't have Scott.
Yeah, no,
didn't really have a lot of Irene. So I'm wondering if I'm going to have to reconsider this.
It's such a good book, though.
It's such a good book. It's the best standalone.
It is the best standalone book, for sure.
Right. You could sell that one and never pick up another Mitch Rapp book and say it's one of the best thrillers I've ever read.
Besides Transfer of Power, I think.
True. Yep. All right, Memorial Day. Mitch Rapp stared through the one-way mirror into the dank, subterranean cement chamber. That's all right.
Yeah. It kind of, I don't know, it kind of lets me down because it's one of my favorite books, but...
Is that the chamber under the house in that battle scene where they find the nuclear plans?
Yeah,
remember they find that map with the blast zone under a house they're raiding in Afghanistan? I don't think so.
Is it that or is he about to interrogate somebody?
Yeah, you know what? That makes more sense. Yep.
The one-way mirror. Yeah.
Who's he interrogating at the very beginning of Memorial Day?
I don't know. I just pulled up the first lines.
Shoot. All right, I'm at a loss on that one. The rest of them I kind of really remember, but that one,
Yeah, but it's just like, it's disappointing that one sort of let me down a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't blame you.
The next one did not. So, Consent to Kill. To kill a man is a relatively easy thing, especially the average unsuspecting man.
Dude. Drop the mic.
I mean, I think that's one of the best sentences I've read.
Woof.
It sets you up for, all right, who we killing? Who's doing the killing?
And could I do it?
Exactly.
It's an easy thing.
It's apparently a relatively easy thing, you know? Whose mind
I remember that
are we
made
in?
me think, like, I don't have skills, but if someone just, like, if my task was to kill somebody and I could do whatever I wanted to do, it's obviously real easy. Like, I would have never thought about that. Like, I really wouldn't have thought about that.
I mean, if you think about it, it kind of is, but it's kind of like we have willpower to not do it, so.
Especially if the person's average and unsuspecting. Like, yeah. Like, what? Like, that's nuts.
Again, makes you stop and think and reread the sentence.
Exactly.
So.
Dude, that's a good one. It's almost poetic, too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, act of treason. The motorcade rumbled down the cobblestone street. All right.
Pretty standard. Sure. Setting it up.
Yeah.
Nothing special.
Fits the plot. Plot.
Is that Georgetown, I guess?
Oh, I remember looking at the research. Yeah, okay. Yes, because I remember where the man in the red hat was standing. I don't know if it was P Street, but it was Wisconsin Avenue.
Right.
And one of the side streets in Georgetown. Yep.
Oh, okay.
I remember trying to estimate, because I drive that every single day, which tree it was by the description of how far the tree was to be outside the blast radius. If you make the turn, the man had to hide behind the tree where you'd feel the impact, but the tree would protect you. And the tree would have to be thick enough for him to hide behind it. And I think a security camera from a coffee shop picked up on him. So he like that Starbucks right there in North Georgetown near the Safeway. So yeah, I remember
you knew exactly where this tree should be.
I remember I was looking on Google Maps, and then on my drive the next day, I was like, "Is that tree as wide as it actually looks on Google Maps? How big has it grown?" Yeah,
that's how much of Mitch Rapp nerds we are. We're actually going to look for the actual tree. We need to put a little plaque saying, "On the man with the red hat stood behind this tree during act of treason."
Dude, can you imagine if you put that up and then you come back the next day, somebody crossed out the man with the red hat and wrote Gavrilo Gazic? I'd lose my shit. I'd lose my shit. I would absolutely lose my mind.
That'd be awesome.
All right, this next one's weird. Please tell me it's not my turn to read.
No, it's my turn. Protect and
good.
defend. Mitch Rapp ran his hand along her smooth, naked thigh, up to her waist, and then down her flat stomach.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned.
Look at Vince going a little sexual right off the bat. This is the only X-rated like sentence we get, or like erotic sentence that we get. Very out of
character, man.
Very out of character. It's kind of weird, like that. We're not weird, but just like it's not something that we normally get right off the bat.
It's like, whoa, where'd that come from?
It really grips you though if you're into that.
You got a romance novel here?
Yeah, exactly.
Some people wouldn't mind a Mitch Rapp romance novel, let me tell you.
Or Scott Coleman.
I was going to say Scott Coleman might be more my style. Ooh, Joe Maslick. Ooh, now you're talking. It's getting hot in here.
I know Steph K wants a Scott Coleman novel.
No, you didn't. You just went there. Man.
I think Don would too.
Ooh, do we got to mark this episode explicit also? Because I had to mark that Skip McMahon one explicit. We were dropping some dimes in that one, man.
Oh man, that's so funny.
I think we've been on our best behavior so far this pod. Maybe we'll try to keep it squeaky clean for the kids. Oh, there's a question. What do you think the youngest reader of a Mitch Rapp book is? Like, is it suitable for young adults? I mean, I read it at 15, I want to say. My first book.
Well, so like these books are it's by dads for dads. Like that's
exactly
what these books are for. Like
so
dad quote unquote dad fiction. I think it has to be. You're only reading it if your dad reads it or your uncle reads it.
Dude, let's not forget the ladies. We got a lot of
or your mom
ladies.
or no, I'm not sorry. I shouldn't say that. But like if your mom or dad is
right.
into these books. Like, I don't think...
That age group.
15-year-olds aren't picking this up.
Right.
Unless their parents, like, have a bunch of these books on their shelves.
I don't know. They could, though. Like, I'm wondering.
Do you think in high school, are you picking up, like, I don't know, The Hunt for Red October?
I feel like you're so busy with all this crap literature they make you read. I don't know. I think it's unfortunate, but, yeah, I guess this whole genre is not represented.
Mm-hmm.
Should it be? I don't know.
Only like a Tom Clancy, I feel like.
Yeah, it would have to be something real deep.
Maybe a who did Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy?
Le Carré.
Like a Le Carré.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Because that you can actually look for like trends in the genre, getting it started or changing it in a very academic approach.
Or like a Ludlum, yeah.
Ludlum even, but these summer beach reads, you can't really do that with. Yeah. That's a weird scene though. I mean, the sex stuff, but also Agent Rivera, they had this fling. Then Mitch sneaks off on her and goes and kills Stu Garrett, and then boom, let's go get started with the story now. Stu Garrett's out of the way, and Rivera's been knocked up.
Yeah, that was one of the interesting... Pregnant?
No. We never know.
One of the interesting choices, kill Stu Garrett, not in the previous book, but to save it for the next book. I don't know. Maybe he didn't want to kill Stu Garrett right away, or he didn't know if he was going to kill him, and then he's just during the process of writing, he's like, "I'm killing Stu Garrett."
Yeah, his time's up. That's another one of those questions. Love to ask Vince. When did you decide to get rid of a character like Stu Garrett?
We should ask Kyle that. I guess we kind of did with Mike.
True, he knew his time was up.
Mm-hmm.
Did Kyle kill anybody else outside of who he had to kill? Because Gould had to die. Hurley had to die at his age. I feel like those are the only two other main characters he killed, and they both pretty much had to die.
Yeah, besides villains, no, he hasn't killed anybody really besides Mike.
until Mike. Yeah. So it was due.
We thought Scott was going to die, but he did.
I was a little nervous. Right. Oh, yeah, with enemy of the state. Right.
Yep.
All right,
No,
where were we?
Order to kill. Order to kill. Yeah.
Order to kill. Right. Order to kill.
You're on extreme measures.
Extreme measures. Here we go. Speak of the devil. Mike Nash glanced anxiously at his watch and then eyed the twin flat screen monitors.
So it's a little generic, but it's kind of interesting because we're getting a new character because this is the first time we meet Mike Nash. Why is he anxious? What is he looking at on these screens?
Right.
So it is generic, but I think it does a little bit extra. So,
yeah.
All right, Pursuit of Honor. It was nearing 10 o'clock in the evening when Mitch Rapp decided it was time to move.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like, what is Mitch doing?
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Again, sort of cold open, getting right into the action. Let's do it.
Yeah. It also builds on extreme measures of we know why he's moving. You got to track these guys, Kareem and Hakeem. Like, it definitely reopens as a part 2 of Extreme Measures Part 1. Yeah, that one works. All right, The Last Man. This is a pretty cool scene, and it's one of those lines where you very clearly remember where you are and what's going on. The 4 dead men were lined up on the living room floor of the safe house. Afghanistan, General Zahir.
Who are these 4 men? Why are they dead? It just, again, grips you. I like it.
Yeah.
And when you remember that book and you think of that line, it's like, oh, that was a intense scene.
I've also, at this point in the series, been longing for Mitch in his element since, when was he on the ground in the Middle East? Consent to Kill? It goes into Saudi Arabia? Memorial Day from Afghanistan? I was itching to get Mitch back in the fight.
Right.
In the operating theater. So.
All right, so the next one is The Survivor. While the line, I'll read it. Scott Coleman turned away from the color monitor and glanced right. So, we get Scott, a character in it. It's kind of bland, but the scene is cool. Like, this first line is not that good, but I will say, because you're opening in Istanbul, it's BB Kincaid. He's obviously the color monitor is like her purse or whatever.
Yeah.
This scene put you right into the action, and I really liked it. But the first line is,
And though we're not 100% sure, I think we kind of figured out that was Kyle's scene, the chase with BB, because The Survivor had 3 pages written by Vince, but we had thought it was a different scene.
A different scene, yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. I think it was that scene with Hurley sitting around by the fire, or they were smoking or drinking or something.
Because Kyle said that Kyle said that he came up with BB Kincaid, the character. So
right, exactly. So even though The Survivor has Vince's 3 pages, I don't think it's in the prelude. I think it's the chapter 1 that are those 3 pages. Order to Kill. Grisha Azarov steered clear of Main Street, taking a random path as he walked through what had once been one of Russia's many oil boom towns.
All right. Get a new character. That could have been another thing. How many times do we get a brand new character?
A brand new character, right.
Right off the bat. So we got Grisha. Later on, we're going to get Sonia.
We got Mike Nash.
Mike Nash. And that's it.
That's it. Yeah. Okay. And kind of enemy at the gates. We'll get there.
Kind of.
Dude, this was a cool scene when he's going after one of those oligarchs.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, he's questioning Krupin, who's already sending him on this kill mission. And the oligarch's name is Ukin.
Yes.
This
is where you get
is there
confused.
A connection?
Yeah,
Boris and Dmitry. One of them's Boris, one of them's Dmitry, because he's still the president in the current rap series. It's still Ukin, I believe.
It is.
So I wonder if this
it was
guy
mentioned in one of the books recently. So
yeah,
maybe
Grisha's
Total Power.
first kill on the page. I wonder if he's related it at all.
Probably.
Anyway, small detail.
All right, enemy of the state. It was just after midnight, and Rabat felt largely deserted. All right. Again, we get a place, a description, a time, and we know where we're going to start. Rabat.
Right. And that's the action scene where Maz is in charge, right?
Mhm,
And questioning
mhm.
his ability. Okay.
That was
Where
a
they're
cool
going to
scene.
take the high-value target, but they
Yeah.
don't. Gotcha. All right, Red War. The streets were overrun. That's cool for a short sentence.
Yeah, and this is Krupin sitting in his office, listening to the
Right.
protesters. He's starting to, we begin to see that he's not ill, and he's ill, not well. Yeah, the scene is cool, and he's in his head. We know he's like gonna go insane. So,
And Red War was written, speaking of protest, was that around Ferguson or any of those issues where we were seeing mass protest movements
it was
picking up
2018.
steam?
2018.
2018.
That was all in 2014, right? 2015.
So, yeah, that would be way later.
You read his recent prediction thing? What is it, Stranger Than Fiction? I love those.
Yes.
They're so good.
Yes. Yeah. He's got a great newsletter. If you're not subscribed, KyleMills.com. Very good.
All right, Lethal Agent. The cave was more than 10 meters square, illuminated with a handful of battery-powered work lights.
And a crossbow.
And a crossbow. Now this sentence, and once you realize what cave you were in,
Oh, dude. Yeah.
it's like, oh wow, I'm going back to where we were like 2 books ago.
Saeed Halabi.
Yeah, one of Kyle's best villains.
Yep.
Our consensus best villain, right?
Yeah.
That was a really good book, Lethal Agent.
Really good book. Really good opening scene in the cave. Like, wait, Halabi didn't die, and Mitch tracked him and found him. Yeah.
Best kill ever.
It's or maybe best weapon, possibly. It's up there. It's up there. All right, Total Power. A light mist condensed on Sonia Vance's windshield, turning the forested mountains around her into smears of green.
All right, so again,
All right.
brand new character, but it's it's all right. Good, so okay sentence.
Yeah.
And finally, enemy at the gates. And if you haven't guessed it, this is our shortest sentence. It's just one word: lucky.
Yeah. And this is David Chisholm driving through the countryside.
It then goes into description of why David Chisholm is lucky. So
Yeah. Okay.
because that's also a paragraph. It's very interesting how he does it. He does lucky period, then a new paragraph. The way like he stylizes it.
Right. So lucky is a sentence and a paragraph.
And a paragraph.
Essentially.
Yeah.
All right. I got to say, looking at all this as a whole, what do you want Oath of Loyalty to do? Do you want the action?
You took my question.
Okay. All right. Well, look at this. Great minds. What do you want out of Oath of Loyalty?
I know exactly what I want. I want, boom, cold open, but I want Mitch Rapp. And I want to say, like, Mitch Rapp look down at his phone. I want that, like, as soon as he looks down at his phone and gets that read that Mike Nash is the traitor.
Yep.
That's how this book's got to open.
Right. I want to.
We kind of know that. We kind of know that as well, but
Sure.
That's what I want. I wanted to start right from there.
Yeah, I agree. It was so refreshing hearing Kyle say he has more to unpack about that car ride in the final scene. That was very refreshing. I'll say what I don't want. I think Total Power and Enemy at the Gates opening with Sonia and then David Chisholm was just a little too much of brand new out of the blue characters who aren't even going to play a huge role. Sonia plays a decent role. David Chisholm, they have to save him from the jungle in the first half of the book, but neither plays a truly groundbreaking role in the series. I don't want that. I don't think 3 times in a row a brand new character that is somewhat random should kick things off. It's got to be Mitch. It's got to be Mike.
Yeah, unlike the previous 2 times when either Kyle or Vince introduced us with a brand new character, I guess you can, if you want to argue that Mitch Rapp is a brand new character in American Assassin, you can make that argument, I guess. Obviously, Mitch is the protagonist of the entire series. Mike is a very major character. And I would say Grisha is a mid-major character. Obviously plays a role in 3 books and is an equal to Rapp. So, whereas I'm fine with those being
you got to start
away.
big, right?
Those are big, heavy hitters. But yeah, just like I don't know. I really don't like books where I meet like secondary characters that don't play a role right away.
Same.
That's one thing I don't like. I could in doing this exercise, I realized what I don't like about whether or not it's the first sentence or the first chapter. We're going into the minds of someone who maybe not be that important.
Right. I agree. I could also accept for Oath something with the cooks, something that really rattles your bones, that they're doing, plotting, or planning, almost like a Hank Clark feel. So I could easily also accept that, and then a quick transition to Mitch and Mike in the jungle. But it's got to be one of them, right? It's got to be.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to, it'll be a year post Mike's death from when the book came out, right? People will have thought about it now for a year,
right?
And now it gives us another opportunity to look at it and rediscuss it and come at it at a different light. That's how I feel. It gives you an opportunity to not just sort of blow it off. Because you could imagine that if we just never go back to that ever again, and Mitch just moves on, maybe he mentions Mike in passing. But to make a choice to go back to the very beginning, a scene from Mitch's perspective now, gives another opportunity to realize this choice that Kyle made and understand it. Right. For those of us who maybe were disappointed, so
we've got to grapple with it further. The characters have to grapple with it, and we have to grapple with it.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what we're missing, though? The best type of opening sentence. What if it were a limerick?
just a limerick? Are limericks technically one sentence?
As you probably noticed, I don't even follow the rules of what a limerick actually should do with syllable count and rhyme scheme. I take some liberties, so I'm not the person to ask. I just fake it. I fake it till I make it.
That's funny. They won't. None of your limericks will be able to qualify for the Limerick or World Series, whatever.
They do not qualify. They don't. Yeah, they won't be on ESPN covering the limerick off.
All right, so before we get into our top 5 lists, we're gonna give you our top 5 ratings. Just a couple questions. Which of these lines do you think sets the stage / mood best for the novel that you're then going to read?
This is like judge a line by the book, judge a cover by the book.
Exactly.
The line's got to relate to the book. There's quite a few that did that. I think in terms of the setting, Transfer of Power does it very well. The third option, though, is so cool because you get a couple of paragraphs or a page explaining what the third option is and how Mitch is a trained operative and assassin to work outside the bounds of the law. So I got to go with that one. I don't know if I see another one that's as topical or thematic as the third option. What do you say?
Yeah, we're talking entirety of the book. I feel like that one or American Assassin, because it jumps you into a scene that's then we don't go back to that scene until 2/3 into the book. So I would say that.
If you're talking about just the plot and the logistics of what happens, the motorcade one in Act of Treason, the whole book is centered around that blast.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, American Assassin also very topical. Mitch, his reflection in the mirror, his growing up, his choices. Yeah, definitely.
All right, so which one, the opposite, which one has least to do with the entire novel?
Protect and defend.
Yeah, no, it's kind of
Yeah, the sexy, the triple X.
It kind of sticks out. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, that one's so random. I'm glad Stu Garrett gets killed and Rapp has a little fun off to the side, all about that lifestyle.
Sure,
but
yeah, but
it doesn't work for the book.
So this one may be a little bit harsh, but if you could only read one line, if that's all you had, and then you had to make a decision whether or not you were going to keep reading or stop reading, it kind of asks the question, which one gets you the most hype, but which one do you think you would most stop reading?
Okay.
If you're like, oh, I'm out.
So we talked about the ones that draw us in. So these are the ones that repel us away.
Yeah.
There's probably something else, but I might go with the Sonia one.
I was going to say that too.
Condensed on the windshield. I don't really care. Who are you? The light mist has already been done with Transfer Power and Irene Kennedy, and she's badass. So I don't see the purpose of opening with her.
Everything else, like even like the lucky, I'm like, okay, who's lucky? Like,
sure,
what is the luck coming from? Like, I'm kind of intrigued. Yeah, everything else I'm intrigued, but for some reason that sentence, I'm not that intrigued with this forested mountain around her. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm in agreement with you there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and you took my give us the first line for Oath of Loyalty. So, what do you say we give our top fives there, Mike?
All right. Mind if we cut it down to top three? I feel like I'm going to have a hard time with the 4-5 spot because almost anyone could go in there.
Yeah, no, you're right. All right, we'll do top three.
Top three makes us really pick out the heavy hitters, like the big ones.
Okay,
that's a little easier for me to nail down. I feel like I'd be reaching with 4 and 5 because that could be replaceable.
There's an obvious cut of some, and then like the rest are set, and then obviously we picked out the ones that are like a little bit the weakest of the bunch.
Do you mind if we just say what our number one is? Just it
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah,
I know it's your rules here on the game.
I just came up with the idea of this podcast, and we're kind of running with it. I'm having fun, so
we have some freedom now that we're done with the books to just chit chat and banter. I'm gonna say there are two. There are cut above. The third option, which I kept talking about, but I keep coming back to Consent to Kill. To kill a man is a relatively easy thing, especially the average unsuspecting man. That's my winner. That's number one. It's totally badass. It's like when an athlete is peaking. Everything about Consent to Kill is when Vince was peaking. He hit peak even with that one line. So I'm going Consent to Kill.
Yeah, so you picked my top two as well.
Okay.
But for me, it's the third option is number one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Consent to Kill is number two. Those are the two obvious cut above.
Exactly.
Everything.
The three spot, though.
It's I'm having trouble with the three spot because I want to put two in there.
Mm-hmm.
I love The American Assassin. And I really like the Separation of Power. Just because like how, even though that one really doesn't have anything to do with the plot, like that scene.
That's the burial?
That's the burial. It just, it hits me. It's emotional. So.
Mm-hmm.
But if you force me to choose, I got to go American Assassin. So it'd be third option, Consent to Kill, American Assassin. Top three lines right there.
Yeah, you like that one. Mitch Rapp stared at his reflection in the dusty, cracked mirror and questions his sanity. I think if I were forced to do the 4 and 5, that would be around the 4-5 spot. But for some reason, I keep coming back to... It's kind of out of the blue, but I'm going to say Pursuit of Honor. Mitch Rapp decided it was time to move. That just
All
gets me
right.
hype.
Wow.
Mitch is going. Mitch is going, baby. He's going. I mean, that's a dark horse. I'm saying that one slips in there under the radar in the 3 spot. American Assassin, the 4 spot if I had to say it. And my tie for 5th, I know weren't going to do it, my bad, but I changed the games. I'm a hypocrite. Whatever. Term Limits. The Cabin in the Woods is so iconic to me with Scott Coleman meeting up with Seamus there. Like, super iconic. So I'm going with that.
All right. So since I gave 4, I'll give my 5th. It'd be Lethal Agent, that cave, man. Kyle coming in with the cave and then knowing what that cave is, that Halabi survived and he's now the main protagonist. I don't know. I like that one a lot.
Dude, good stuff. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, can't wait to discuss line 1 of Oath of Loyalty. See if we get our predictions right. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that episode. A little bit different here, but I don't know. We've been wanting to talk about something like that for a while. Can't wait. It's kind of like a preview of our top covers, preview of our final book ratings. So
final rankings, yep.
Those are to come. What are we doing next week?
I was going to say, this episode, what number is it?
This will be episode 98.
98. We're getting close to that 100, so next week we'll have an author series for you. Really excited. You'll have to check our social media. We're going to post who that will be. It's a big one. And then for the big 100, I think we got to do the covers.
Yeah, no, we got to. Let's do it. It's time.
We got to judge a series by the covers. Judge a cover by the series. Yeah, we got to do it.
Just mark down cover C for me. I'll, 1 through 5.
Everyone's waiting for a Mike rant about cover C's, aren't you?
Yes, of course. I don't know. That could either be our most listened to pod or our least listened to pod, because it seems like we're the only ones who give a crap about covers.
Why do these guys care so much about the cover?
Because they're important. They're important.
I want somebody in Apple Podcast. We're always asking for 5 stars. I want someone to give us a 4-star review, and the only reason is because
covers.
We drone on about the covers.
I want the opposite. I want a 5-star review, and I want someone to tell me, yes, I agree with your cover. Like, you need to stand up for covers more often.
Covers matter, bro.
Hashtag covers matter.
And there go our downloads and ratings.
Yeah, no. We can't be canceled on a podcast.
Mitch Rapp pod gets canceled.
That has like 300 listeners. Come on. That can't be our undoing. We have to do something way worse than that.
Dude, if it takes us 99 episodes to get canceled, I don't mind that.
Oh, God. But Mike, should we tell them that we also maybe have a little something special to drop on the 100th episode? Little special sneak peek, a little surprise?
Right. I think you guys are going to want to stay tuned. Episode 99, got a great author series for you. Episode 100, we're talking covers, and we will release something only our patrons know, our plans for the next few months, next few years, we hope, with season 2 and beyond for the podcast.
There you go. How about that for a tease?
Yeah. Stick around.
All right. Well, whoever's still listening to this pod, we need to thank our patrons, including our special operator, Sherry F., our special agents, George, Matt, Dawn, Dennis, Peggy, Catherine, Ray, Bridget, Jeff, Mark, I think I missed one, Kevin, and Daryl. Please subscribe, rate, and review using your favorite podcasting platform. Find us at mitchrappod.com or using Twitter and Insta at mitchrappod. And as always, just let Mitch be Mitch. Just a disclaimer, this podcast is not affiliated with Vince Flynn, Kyle Mills, or Simon & Schuster, but thank you to them for bringing us the wonderful world of rap. And the music soundtrack is Guerrilla Tactics by Raphael Crooks.